Hey there, it's Pete with GCI Turf. Hope you're having a great day today. This right here is the sand I'm using. That's some really nice, clean stuff. I found a new supplier. So maybe it's good to start off with sand leveling in general and my thoughts on it. All that's going to depend on the time of the year, the turf type, the condition of the yard. Obviously, anytime you attempt this, you want the grass to be healthy. Okay, you don't want it to be struggling and stressed out because this is in a way somewhat stressful on the turf. You're taking sand and dumping it on top of it. So you want a good, healthy turf that's growing good and all that kind of thing, and it's in its element. Of course, this right here is Bermuda grass, and it's the middle of June, so it's pretty much in its element right now. It's going into its most aggressive time of growth during the entire year. So let's talk about the grasses I am not a fan of sand leveling. Number one is tall fescue. I don't like covering the crown of the plant like that with fescue. And if I were going to level up a fescue yard or areas in a fescue yard, there's really only two ways I personally would do it. Well, three ways. One is if the yard is in bad enough shape, the entire yard is to just renovate it. Smoke it off, get it back down to bare dirt, either grade it yourself or pay a professional to grade it for you and then replant. That would be option number one for fescue as far as I'm concerned. Option number two, if you have bad spots in your fescue, I would do the same thing, but instead of doing a complete renovation and regrading the entire yard, I would only do spots, the bad spots. You can actually kill off the bad areas. Like if you got a really bad hole in the yard or something like that, you can kill that off, let it die out. Take a weed eater, skin off all the yucky grass, the dead grass, and then fill it up with dirt, level it up, put some grass seed on it. The third way I would do fescue is if I've got a bad low area or a hole, rent you a sod cutter and sod cut the good grass out, add some fresh dirt, level it up, and then put your sod that you just removed, put it back in the area, and that'll level it back up. Of course, if I were going to do any three of those with fescue, I would do it in the fall of the year when it's the right time to actually plant fescue seed. Kentucky bluegrass, that's a little different game. You can take it on down pretty low. I've cut my blue at a 1/2 inch with zero issues. And you can actually do the same process that I'm doing right here. You've seen me do that at my house one time. It was a compost sand mixture. And basically you dump it out and spread it out using something that's flat. I've got a thing that goes on the back of the tractor that does it, but you could actually buy one of those plastic pallets. Uline is a great place to get those. You can get those heavy-duty plastic pallets, and they're nice and flat, and you can drag that thing around with your lawnmower or a little garden tractor or whatever you have. So, and obviously, with bluegrass, I prefer to do it in the early spring as it's waking up, going into the growing season, as opposed to doing it in the fall of the year. Now you can do it in the fall of the year. I mean, you can do that. It's just the times I've done that in my yard, it takes a little bit longer for the bluegrass to kind of grow back in, as opposed to springtime. Ryegrass that you have cut short, or you maintain it at a short height of cut, obviously you can do it the same way, dump some sand out and scatter it out. And kind of the same thing with rye as the bluegrass, and the fescue is just the timing of the year is what's going to determine your success on that. You know, any of those, you don't want to try that in the middle of the summer when it's hot and your cool season grass might be struggling or something like that. You just want to make sure you do that in the optimum time for that particular turf type, so that it can grow out of the sand or grow above the sand the quickest. That's kind of my mindset on that, is I want it to recover from the sand level job as fast as it possibly can. Warm season grasses, St. Augustine, I don't have any experience with it, none whatsoever. I know I've seen Alan at some point or another take some sand out of a bag and sprinkle it in a hole in his yard or something like that. I'm assuming it worked. I didn't follow up to see if it did. I assume it works. If it works for him, it'll probably work for you if you got St. Augustine. Centipede, zero experience with centipede as far as growing that turf, so I would assume it would be something similar to the other warm season grasses, and I'm sure at some point in time someone has sand leveled centipede and probably had a good luck doing it. Zoysia is going to kind of be more on the line of Bermuda. You can cut it kind of tight to the ground. I need to plant some Zoysia somewhere at the shop, because actually that's a very, very pretty grass. It's a very pretty grass, very dense, very thick, and slow grower, real low maintenance, loves the heat, and I want to plant some and grow some. We got several Zoysia yards that we treat in our company, and I'm a fan of it. I like that turf type. As far as leveling it goes, you can basically treat it like Bermuda. I mean, you cut it down short, dump you some sand out and scatter it out with your pallet or with your leveling attachment, and it's good to go. And of course, the same thing holds true with that as timing, as far as the way the weather is. That's pretty important, because you want to do it June-ish, June to July, sometime in that, when the turf is going to be growing its most vigorously. That way it can kind of grow out of the sand. Then you can get back to mowing it. And of course, my favorite warm season turf is Bermuda. I absolutely love Bermuda when it's in the right location. You've heard me say this 100 times, and I'm going to tell you again in case you missed it. I despise it in my fescue. It's the devil, it's Satan grass, it's evil, and you can't hardly get rid of it. I hate it with a passion when it's in my fescue. I would say in my blue, but fortunately I don't have any in my blue. I got those same 3 little spots in my fescue. I was mowing the other day and saw one little runner starting to peek its head out above the canopy of the fescue. So I reached in there and pulled it out. So I keep an eye on that. I just pluck it out every time I see it. I've tried everything. 4 years of Pilex. I've tried Fusillade. I've tried straight foaming Roundup on it. I've tried Acclaim on it. I've tried, gosh, what else have I tried? I've tried them all. Any herbicide that claims it removes Bermuda from fescue, I have tried it, and I've still got the same 3 spots. So you can take that at face value for what it's worth and roll with it. But as far as leveling Bermuda goes, I personally think it's the easiest out of all of them to level. You just feed the Bermuda, go down with some protein, 2005. If you're gonna aerate it, you know, and like I said in a previous video, you plug it and then put your fertilizer down. That way you get a little bit of fertilizer down in the holes, down the root system, in the ground. And then put your sand out there and start dragging it around, and then have at it with the water. You know, the watering's pretty important. You want to pump the water to it pretty good, because you got to work that water down through the sand, and then you got to work it down through the turf and into the ground to get everything rocking and rolling. And then once you do that, man, that Bermuda grass is going to start growing. It's going to come up through that sand, and then you can start mowing again, and you'll have a nice smooth surface to mow. Of course, if you're a real mow guy, if you like to real mow your Bermuda, obviously that smooth surface is going to be very important, because the real mower is not forgiving at all. If you have an uneven area that you're mowing, and you're going to get scalp marks if you're real mowing. Heck, you're going to get scalp marks with a rotary mower with Bermuda, because, you know, for the most part, the leaf material is kind of at the top of the plant. If you let it get a little bit longer, and if your mower deck digs down into that and gets down into the stem, you're going to actually see that brown after you mow. Of course, Bermuda, it'll heal back up a couple of days or so, but it just looks ugly while it's in that healing process. Now, these two fields right here, the majority of the areas are nice and flat and smooth. They do real mow these. I think I caught them yesterday mowing when I was coming in. I'm pretty sure that was a real mower they were using. It was at a distance, but I'm pretty sure it's real mowed. And so it's pretty smooth for the most part, but in these high traffic areas where the kids play soccer, you know, where they put the ball in center field and kick it and stuff like that. And, you know, most of the activity takes place in the middle of the field from goal to goal. And, you know, kids, they young, they be standing out there and digging their feet in the ground and kicking it up. Boy, I'm telling you what, when I'm at a youth baseball game, watching them kids play, and that guy's out in left field or right field, and he's just digging his cleats in the ground, trying to dig a hole. Oh, man, I'm ready to go out there and snatch that joker up. I'm like, man, quit digging in the grass, would you? Come on. People work hard on this stuff. But hey, they kids, that's what kids do. Uh-oh, there goes my leveler. Let me get out and take that thing off. I must not have tightened that down. Oops. That's my bucket leveler rod. It just fell out, so I need to get that all set up. I ain't had time to mess with it yet. So yeah, we're just spot leveling these. Because like I said, the majority of the field is in really, really good shape, and we're going to level up these areas where most of the traffic's at, and then she'll be good to go. They'll start pumping water to it, and this field will grow back in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, and it'll be looking good. So you can see I've got this kind of rough graded, and what I do is I take the bucket and knock down the big piles and scatter it out with my leveling attachment. And once I do that, the sand's going to dry, and that way when it's dry you can actually fine tune the grade a lot better than using wet sand. So that's why I knock it all down and just kind of rough scatter it, and then while I'm working on the other field I'll let this dry a little bit and then come back over here and go back over it one more final time and kind of put the final grade on it. Back over here on field number 1 and just kind of putting the final pass on it. And basically all I'm doing is got my implement pitched back where the soft edge will kind of fluff it up, butter it up a little bit, kind of going a little bit slower right now. The sand is nice and dry now, so it's able to really fine tune and fill in all those little teeny tiny spots to kind of get it as perfect as I can get it. That's why I'm going a little bit slower to give the sand time to actually fill in the low spots. I got a couple of really big jobs coming up. We got a girls softball field, boys baseball, and a football, all at the same school, and we're going to do all 3 of those, and we'll try to knock them out in about 2 days. Probably take 1 day to get all the material on the field, and then take another day to get it all spread out. Yeah, I need to look at getting a top dresser if I'm going to keep doing this, if I want to be more efficient. So a few isolated spots that it was a little bit thicker. The sand is maybe 3/4 inch roughly, so it'll take a little bit longer for it to pop through that, but it will. You can see where the majority of the work, right down the middle of the field where all the action takes place. You can see right here, it's that little bit of Bermuda coming through. That's all it takes right there. So if it'll go on and get hot, it'll probably take 2 weeks maybe. This has got a pretty serious irrigation system out here. The heads throw 90 feet a piece, so it covers a lot of ground really quickly. It's a very high volume of water, so they can get this thing wet pretty quick and keep it wet, and then won't be long, it'll be green again. As always, appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch. I'll check you later.